Who remembers the BJ and Bill show all those years ago on WOLZ? Well, many have said they missed the show, and guess what? They're back. Welcome to the BJ and Bill podcast.
Welcome to BJ and Bill, the podcast, a part of the Podcast Playground Network. Please give us that 5-star review, subscribe on your preferred podcast platform, and follow us on Facebook, BJ and Bill, the podcast. And of course, you can always email us, BJ and Bill, the podcast @gmail.com. As we welcome you, my friends, to episode 138.
Awesome. That's the first time I've heard you say your preferred podcast platform, the PPP. That's awesome. Preferred podcast platform. Clever.
I've been listening to more podcasts, obviously, because I do too. You do too.
Yes.
But I'm listening to some of these younger whippersnappers, and you know, they can't say a whole word. You know, whenever you do your potting, or thanks for potting with us.
Uh-huh.
The hell is this potting crap?
It's like potting plants, right?
Yeah, that's
it's
what
like,
I'm thinking. I'm thinking you guys smoking some wacky tobacco or something over there. What's going on?
That's funny. Well, how are you?
The question should be, how are you?
I know, right? We were talking before we started. I look like I have gone a round or two with Tyson. Red eye, swollen. The bag under it is over the legal limit for any domestic flight. I just couldn't get on a plane with that much baggage. But honestly, it feels about the same. And it's never been huge pain. I mean, the drugs that they gave me and the drops that I'm taking and all of that, pain, not an issue. Vision, big issue. And today, I was telling you before we started recording, today's the first time it looks like the vision is actually improving a little bit. First couple of days over the weekend, it was like absolutely out of focus. Forget it. I mean, I could hold my hand in front of my face, and the girl at the doctor's office did that on my first checkup, on my first return visit. You know, she's like puts the eye chart, you know, like when you get your glasses done, they put the eye chart on the wall. I said, honey, I can see that there's a white blob there, but you know, as far as a letter, not a chance. And so she put her hand in front of me. Can you see fingers? And I'm like, maybe, you know, a couple here and there. But so anyway.
Bill goes, what finger are you giving me? That's what
right
I want
finger.
to know.
Exactly. What finger are you giving me? So today I could see if somebody was giving me the finger. I could see that. That would be fine. So, so anyway, long story short, it's better. It doesn't look better. It looks like hell. But it's just me here at home. So I ain't going anywhere for a week. I am not going. I am under doctor's orders. No pickleball, no heavy lifting, no nothing. Face down as often as possible. Take it easy. Do nothing. I'm like, well, boring, but okay, I'll do it.
Welcome to my life.
Welcome to BJ Odom's life. I know, I get it. Hey, you were down at visiting the boss over the weekend. You were down in Fort Myers. Come on, you were having a big time.
You know, okay, I'm retired. I don't do a whole lot.
That makes two of us.
And I didn't do all, you know, I visited and, you know, just kind of hung out with the family. But I got back last night and I'm trying, you know, putting everything away. And
right.
I drove there 4 days ago and I drove back last night or yesterday afternoon.
Yes.
And I feel like a beat noodle today. I just feel like, I just so tired. Of course, I didn't sleep the greatest there, but you
never sleep well when you're not in your own bed.
But I think the person that probably feels a lot worse than I today would be the wife.
Right. Girls' weekend? Yeah.
Oh my God. I saw some pictures that I can't unsee.
Little party action for the ladies, huh?
I never even heard of this, but I think their first call to action was going to a martini bar and getting a tower martini.
You could,
It's like a metal plate, or that goes like around like that with little
right,
holders on it,
right,
and just martinis, all the way up. And in fact,
wow,
it boiled down to be okay. There was four of them.
right.
What's 4 times 4?
Four times
12,
four,
right?
four times, no, 4 times 4 is 16, but yeah.
Okay, there was 16 on the tower.
16 martini. That's gotta be a $250 little thing at the bar there, right? I
I,
mean,
I, I haven't looked at my credit card bill, and I'm not going to because I want to stay married.
well, if it's split between four of them, it
Yeah.
could be worse. I was thinking they also call that, well, no, that's different. They also call it, but it's like a flight. Like a flight, and it's usually on a board, a
Oh
regular
yeah, I know what
flat
a
board.
flight. Yeah, like you usually get those at the breweries.
Yes, you get four different beers. We make four different beers. Here's a sample of each one, or whiskeys, or whatever. A
Yes.
flight. Yeah. And somebody is actually, oh, who's doing that? Is that Kentucky Fried Chicken or Popeyes? Somebody is doing a flight of sauces now for your nuggets. And I'm like, oh, come on, people. Come on. But yes. So this was a martini tower. That's a new one on me. I haven't heard that. Where was that enjoyed? Where were they?
I'm just gonna say because that's all I know. Somewhere in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Chattanooga, a big party town, Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Well, one of the ladies, well, two of the late because it was one of their friends from Fort Myers. So they
Right,
flew out of Punta Gorda Airport. That's why I went to my son's,
right,
and they flew together there and they flew together back.
right,
So there was four of them, but two of them, the mother and the daughter. It's a mother-daughter, kind of like I guess if my daughter would want to hang out
right.
with my wife and her friends, and I can't see that happening, but maybe for a day, but it sounded like, this is like a little pack,
And one of them was a mother-daughter. That's a good. That sounds like a good relationship.
and they're
Getting
both
wasted
from that
together.
they're both from that area, so
Okay,
they knew their way around.
okay.
Yeah, Chattanooga.
Chattanooga.
Now they didn't. Now, if you've ever been to Chattanooga and the Chattanooga Choo Choo,
I have driven through it, but no.
there is a hotel called the Chattanooga Choo Choo,
Of course.
and one of them is just like a big building, but also on property which they did not stay. And we went there probably 4 years ago, and we did not stay. So maybe I need to make an appointment, and we need to actually stay. But you can actually there's like maybe 20 train cars.
Railroad cars. Yeah.
Yeah, that they've made into like little hotel rooms,
Cool.
and then there's a big hotel next to it. When we went 4 years ago, we stayed in the hotel. They went and stayed in the hotel. I said, one of these years we got to go up there and stay in one of those. But it's like 2 or 3 times more than the damn hotel costs.
Of course it is. Of course it
But
is.
it'd still be kind of cool.
I get it. I do. I mean, somebody, well, whatever.
But my wife did not call that tower.
No.
She called it the Tower of Terror. Terror. I thought she
Tower
was at
of Terror.
Disney again.
Disney. So anyway, the girls had a good time.
Yep.
Yep. Everybody came home in one piece and
Yep,
all that. That's good.
They're probably paying for it today.
Of course.
But out of the four, I know two of them are probably back at work today. Maybe not.
Oh, wow. That's wow. So, well, there you go. So now your wife has the day to recover. Well, she's got as much time as she needs to recover. She's got you to take care of her. So that's a good thing. And yeah, cool.
Well, let's take our first little break, come right back, and we'll get into the rest of the story. Welcome back. Got to get to this before we get much further because, the NBA finals are going on.
Well, the playoffs. Yes. Finals not yet.
Yeah, not the
Playoffs,
finals.
playoffs in full swing. And
Oh.
believe me, when all you can do is watch TV with your head down, I have been locked in 110% to the NBA tournament. Just locked in.
What are you thinking so far?
Loving my Cavaliers. Looking for the sweep over Miami. Fantastic. Would love to see Orlando push back a little more against Boston, only because I don't think Orlando beats Boston, but I just want Boston to get a little roughed up. So when they do eventually face Cleveland, they're a little roughed up. That's all. Um, watched watched Detroit Pistons get absolutely hosed by the referees yesterday against the New York Knicks. The NBA has even admitted, yeah, on that final 3-point shot that they did not call a foul on, it was clearly a foul, and it would have a 3-pointer would have won it, and 2 points would have tied it. I think if I have my score right, but no, the Knicks won it, and to me, complete and total ripoff. I don't know what you do. So anyway, can you tell I'm locked in? I mean, and I know you're wearing your Warriors hat there. You know, Steph Curry, his back has got to be killing him this morning after carrying the team over the weekend. But no Jimmy Butler. He had to do it, and he did.
Well, I had that game on Saturday night.
Right.
As soon as they said Butler was out, I'm going to lose. I'm sorry I said that, Warriors. I apologize wholeheartedly, but I go, oh, they're going to lose this one.
He did text that to me, folks. He did text it to me and
So
go, oh, no Butler. I don't even know if I'm going to watch.
I did have my Warrior hat on.
I see that. You still do.
I did have my Warrior, because my son keeps his house 20 below zero. I had my Warriors sweatshirt on.
Okay.
And so I might have to turn down the air here at the home front tonight. When
Just
the game
to match
comes
what
on.
your son had in Fort Myers.
Yeah, and then also, put my, sweatshirt on again.
Right.
But I was, and I hate to admit this, that surprised the hell out of me. But as I said to you, now if they get Butler back, they're toast. They're gonna, I think they're gonna take care of Houston without even a sweat if they get Butler back even at 80%.
I haven't been following the West as much as the East, but yes, you're probably right. The Lakers in big trouble against Timberwolves. They lost last night. Good game, great game, but they lost. And then, the West, I'm not watching that much. And whatchamacallit, Oklahoma City is just, who are they? They're about to sweep as well.
They did. They swept it already.
Oh, they already swept that one. So see, there you go.
Yeah, they already got the broom out and they're going home for a few days.
Cleveland, Oklahoma City. That's your final. Write it down. Bill said it today. Write it down.
I think
Cleveland,
so too.
Oklahoma City is your final.
But it is the playoffs. And I must be old school.
You are, but it's okay.
Because I watch these games and they basically take their arms as they're defending Steph Curry and other great players. They're basically hugging them hello or goodbye. I don't know which one, but they're hugging them as tight as they possibly can, and nothing is being called. This is probably, and maybe I'm wrong, but I've been watching the NBA for quite some time.
Yes.
And I think that these playoffs are rougher than any year past that I have witnessed. It seems like everybody is playing a little on the rough side. And what's sad about that, some of your older players like Steph Curry, LeBron James, they're not in their prime. And it's probably going to happen to both before this thing is all over. One of them or both are going to get hurt and be out the rest of the playoffs, which is just, it makes me very sad.
I hear you. We're not wishing for that, but I understand what you're saying. And I have heard a couple of the announcers at different games saying, oh, they're letting them play, which is code for not calling fouls. So yeah, I get it. Now, like I said, the last one that ended the Pistons game against the Knicks last night, that was egregious. That's my good word for the day. Egregious. That means it was terrible.
Another thing I don't like about the new NBA too is, and Steph Curry does it better than anyone, but when you go up for a shot and you swing your hip out just so you'll make contact with the person defending you and then you get a foul called.
Right.
I don't like that either.
I don't either. There's a lot I don't like, but I will say that this year the playoffs have been, well, and maybe it's just because I'm so locked in, because what else am I going to do with my head down on the couch? I'm going to watch. I've enjoyed watching all the games. I've liked it. I do. So anyway, but yeah, I get it. There's a lot of stuff that probably could be addressed in the future about that sort of. I mean, they ended up changing the rules, didn't they? About flops, about when guys, will just fall and try and sell the. Oh, he fouled me. Yeah, no, nobody touched you. You just made a good show out of falling. So they made that a technical foul or something like that. So yeah, there's room for improvement. There's always room for improvement.
Yeah.
But I think so far, on balance, I'm enjoying what I'm seeing. I'm enjoying the product.
I'll tell you one thing though, that all of these NBA players could probably get acting jobs when their NBA career is over because
Absolutely.
they try to sell out of bounds, they try to sell fouls.
Absolutely.
Like I think sometimes I wonder, am I watching basketball or am I watching a drama,
Or professional wrestling. No wonder you
Well,
like it so much. It
then
reminds
you
you of
gotta
your
have
professional wrestling days.
Yeah, but then you got to have, the sweetheart and you got to have the heel, and
Oh, I get it. You're right. You're right. That's the NBA hasn't come to that yet. I get it.
yet.
Not yet. Not yet. So.
Probably not far behind, but not yet.
Awesome. So
All right, now
No, go ahead.
I'm kind of excited about getting to this next part.
Which is?
My author friend who is helping to write my memoir.
She's not helping. She is writing it 110%. You are helping her write it.
Yeah, I'm giving her stories. She's putting them on pages.
Yes, she is.
And she's doing a mighty fine job too.
I'm sure she is.
I'm I got some pages to read, and I think I've got 6 chapters already.
Oh, really?
That I am reading now and correcting, if there's any errors or
cool.
I'm supposed to say, well, this just doesn't sound like me.
Right.
And I'm going, well, hell, none of it sounds like me, not with this kind of English. But
it's actually well written and properly said. It doesn't sound like me at all.
But so the big question is, though, that I'm trying to get to.
Yes.
She talked to Bill Stevens, and Bill said for about an hour. So what would you say she was? Well, because I know I have, she does the same thing. She sends me maybe 20 questions.
Right.
And then I answer them, tell her stories. Now, did she send you some questions to think about, or did she just drill you as you were speaking?
No, she didn't send me anything. And yes, we talked for over an hour. But she didn't send me anything. It was pretty much honestly, a lot of it, not a lot of it, much of it was Bill's perspective on BJ's final days.
Wait, don't say final days.
The final
reword that, please. Reword that if you would.
I thought of that when I said it. I thought of it. In the couple of weeks leading up to the transplant and a couple of weeks after the transplant. Of course, to me, that was one of the defining parts of the BJ story, was that successful transplant surgery and calling the radio station afterwards. And of course, the fallout from that, where we came to recognize, they're going to get rid of BJ and Bill. They just didn't, want to tell us that while BJ was in the hospital. So I retold that story in great detail to the best of my ability. And I told a couple of other stories about a lot of the same things that we have talked about on this show before and that we talked about with her. Being recognized in places, being asked for our autograph by little kids who, probably, threw it away an hour later. And one of the things she's looking for, which honestly I've struggled with, and I know she's talked to you about it as well, is trying to find the bad news to good news stories, or the bad news, the challenging parts of it. Because, she asked me at the end of it, what would you say is the overarching theme, what would go on the movie poster? What would go on the back of the book, on the blurb on the back of the book to talk about the story, to get people's attention? And I said, honestly, it's BJ's optimism and willingness to push through shit when everybody was telling him this is going to be hard, this is going to be tough, this is not, this is experimental, this is whatever. And you smiled through the whole thing. I mean, you did. So that was my thing. And she said, yep, that's pretty much what I'm getting too. Now she's still looking for the other pieces of the puzzle, the times when you were like miserable or the challenges or the whatever. And honestly, I'm I'm struggling to remember those because I mean, I wasn't at home with you. Obviously, that's up to, I'm sure I'm not sure. I hope she talks to Susan, to your wife. Because when you came into work, you were there to work. You were there to have as much fun as you could with the radio show, even if you were feeling miserable. So I did tell her a couple of stories about how, god awful you looked some days.
Yeah, because some days I was pretty gray.
Yeah, gray. I mean, literally gray green. You looked like an alien. And I told her some of those, but I said, even with that, when the microphone is on, he's on. I mean, that's, we talked about that with Stan last week, that it's like, we're entertainers, we're storytellers. We are, the three of us, you, me, Stan, and radio people all over the place. We're entertainers. When the microphone is on, it's like being in the spotlight on stage. It's time to perform. It's like Steph. It's like Steph Curry. All right, no Jimmy Butler, no this, no that. Guess what? We're still playing the game, and you got to show up and perform. He did. And so she's looking for rags to riches story, the equivalent of a rags to riches story. When was he down? How did he get through it? How did he do that? And I'm still searching the memory banks to find those.
Well, what's really funny, because she's trying to really dig that out of me too.
Right.
And I'm the person that went through it.
Of course. Well, yeah.
And I'm trying to think. And I don't know. I'm so much a believer that when you're sick and out of it, you can be like, oh my God, worries me. Poor me. I'm so sick. Oh, I'm going to die.
Right.
And, I believe, really, I do, that if you have that attitude, guess what?
Yeah.
You're going to...
It's gonna you will manifest which simply means you will bring to reality what you believe in your head. Absolutely positive. Boy, have I got a podcast for you, The Practical Path. Because that's all we talk about every week. But it's so true. And I believe strongly that that's why you're still with us to this day, because I'm not saying that you denied what was happening to you. You didn't just say, well, I could have done that with my eyeball. I could have said, oh, it'll get better. It'll get better. It'll get better. Well, it wouldn't. It's just, that's not how it works. You have to do something to make it better.
Yes.
Same thing with your heart. You could have just, it's a little more obvious for you. The way you felt, the way you looked, obviously something going on there. But yes, for you, I remember that in so many times where it's like, yeah, were you having a tough time? Yes. Are you giving into that hard stuff? No. And that to me is what is your story. Just the fact that you either refused to give in or continued to look for the good news or the bright side, as they say, or continued, and as Vicki and I say on the podcast all the time, it's a cliche, but laughter is the best medicine. Laughter is as good as any drug. And you and I, we laughed a lot. And I'm sure you laughed with your kids and your wife and your dog and your whatever, you and your medical team and all of that. So yeah.
That was always my key too. And it still is today. If I even go in for, any treatment at cath,
right.
I'm going to joke around with the nurses. When I go in the cath lab, it's like I'm on stage. Because I'm nervous about it. Yes. Because, it's another cath. Am I going to need another stent? Or they're going to go, oh my God, it's not working now,
right.
All those things. But, it's like the men and women in the cath lab, because there's probably usually 8 or 9, getting different things ready and doing different things. And they're my audience. And I'm sitting there,
sitting
there making them laugh. The first thing they roll me in, I always go, "Who's the bartender? I want to meet him right up front." And they
There
go,
you go.
"Oh, that'll be like, Gladys, or that'll be like Sam, And I'll go, "Well, come over here because we're going to get to know one another." I go, "I want that cocktail served as soon as you see the whites of the doctor's eyes, and I want a double."
Right. I did that too. I mean, I admit that I did it too. I was, it was an outpatient but I mean, it was a real surgery thing, real live, wheel you down the hall to the OR kind of a thing. Absolutely. But yeah, I'm not going to say I'm cracking jokes the whole time, but I am engaged and funny and, making people smile as best I can, flat on my back with drugs running through me. But yes, that stuff matters. And to me, that's been your story. To me, I mean, I'm sure there were times where you felt like, oh my God, is this going to be it or whatever? I get it. I don't remember those times. I choose not to. Maybe I did see them. Maybe I'm just choosing not to remember. And you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to pick and choose your memories. Trust me. Come over and listen to the Practical Path podcast sometimes. So yeah.
All right.
In fact, I'm going to write that down on picking and choosing your memories. I think that might be something that Miss Vicky and I talk about this week, because to me, you are the professional at that. I mean, I've never heard you bitch about times when things were going bad. We've told the stories as we tell the stories of everything on this podcast, but you don't focus on that. You don't, that's not the main part of your story. The main part of your story is, I believed I was going to get through it, and 70 years later, here I am still getting through it. So yeah.
You know what? I'm going to take a break here and come back. You know what I'm going to do?
Uh-oh, what?
I'm going to share with, now nobody will need to read the book because they're getting it from you. They're getting it from me.
They'll want to buy the book anyway.
But I'm going to tell you the two biggest, I guess, saddest days as far as my medical experience life. There's two of them, and I shall share them coming up next. Welcome back, BJ and Bill, the podcast, a part of the Podcast Playground Network.
That's normally my job, isn't it? I waved at you and you started talking. I'm sorry about that. Yes, BJ and Bill, the podcast. Find us on Facebook. Do a search for BJ and Bill podcast. Make sure you put the "and" in there, BJAND Bill, and you'll find our show page where we list all the new shows and we post some jokes just because we want to. More importantly, of course, if you would like to, we would love it if you would give us that 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's Apple or Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube Music, you name it. We're out there. We're not hard to find. We're not hard to find. There you go. So
yeah, guess wherever you do your potting.
Potting. That's not even a cool word. I mean, potting.
Hey man, are you potting?
Are you potting?
I sure am, man. I'm potting
yeah.
BJ and Bill, man.
That sounds like if you bump into somebody on the bus in Boston. Pardon me.
Hey, forget about it.
Hey, that's New York, but I'm thinking Boston. But same thing. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I do. All right. I made BJ laugh today. Check. Check mark. All right, cool. So anyway, you teased us big time before going to the break about some particular part of your story here, which now we're all can't wait to hear.
Well, we talked about the down part, and it's really not medical, but yet it is. But I will tell you probably the two biggest down parts for me going through all of this.
Right.
One was when I found out I needed a heart transplant, and not because I needed a heart transplant.
What do you mean?
But it was because the doctor says you need to stop doing everything.
Everything.
And I go, you don't get it. I talk on the radio. I get on a stage and I tell jokes.
It's not like, right. It's not like you're working on an oil rig somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. I get it. I do.
And he goes, no, you don't get it. You need to stop doing everything until we find you a heart.
Wow.
And so I remember, the firing was sad. Yes, the firing was sad when they got rid of our show. But I went into the boss's office, not the program director, but the general manager.
Right.
And I sat down with him and I said, well, I was in Tampa, talking about a heart transplant. And they told me I needed to stop doing everything.
Everything.
And that means my comedy, that means the radio show. So I'm going to have to step away for a little while from the show until they give me a heart. And I
Right.
swear to God, I cried like a baby in front of Jim Keating. I mean, just like a little baby. I mean, I
That's
got
all
tears
right.
just flowing down my face.
Right.
And, he goes, okay, this is what we need to do. And this is what we need to do. And my second part where I really kind of broke down, I guess that's what I'm meaning. The two parts where I really broke down.
Yeah.
When I found out I needed a kidney transplant, that still didn't bother me. And then they go, well, you're going to need dialysis. And that worried me, but it didn't bother me because I know, a lot of people have been on dialysis.
Right.
But when they put this graft in, because I have a graft in my arm, which, they put the big needles in to,
Right.
and not only do they take blood out to filter it, but they got to put it back in. They
Right.
get 2 needles in the arm.
Right. You basically have like a trapdoor there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember when I got home after that surgery, I'd been in the hospital because, they got to do it in the hospital.
Right.
And I remember getting ready for bed with no shirt on, looking in the mirror and seeing this big scar and stitches down my arm. And I broke down crying. I go, I don't know if I can do this much longer. It seems like everything happens, everything's happening to me.
Right. Right.
But by the next day I had fought my way out of it and I'm back to, it is what it is.
It is what it and you know who originally said that I remember. Maybe it was you, but honestly, I remember the first time I heard that it was from the program director who fired us at Oldies.
Oh, wow.
That was the first time I heard anybody use it. And I know he didn't come up with it. I know that. But I remember thinking to myself at the time, A, that makes perfect 100% sense. And B, it's at the exact same time, it is the absolute best thing you can say, and it's the worst thing you can say. It is what it is. Well, whoopee do Kai, what's his name? What did Bruce Willis say in Die Hard? Yippee ki blank blank blank. Because it's like, okay, great. It is what it is. I get it. But your story, back to your story. So I know for a fact, well, I'm hoping, of course, you told your author, Christine, about those stories because she's and she and I had that discussion that it's like, no, because she's a writer and a reporter, and of course that was my job. Nobody, when you're writing a full story like that, nobody's buying the book for a riches to riches story. Nobody's buying the book for a rags to rags story. They're buying the book for the rags to riches story. Now, whether that's in terms of money or relationship or health or your own personal journey of whatever, it doesn't matter. You have to have somewhere where Luke Skywalker starts out in the cave, scared to death, turns into the Jedi Master at the end of the movie. There's a transition. There's a story arc is the word. So she's looking for your BJ Odom story arcs, the times when you were, like you said, I don't know if I can keep doing this or not. And yet you decide somewhere that you can. And that's what makes a good story. That's that moment, because that creates the drama, right? There's no drama in being a billionaire at the beginning of the story and a billionaire at the end of the story. It's just who the hell cares? You're a billionaire. And same for the rags to rags story. It doesn't, if you're a bum at the beginning of the story and you're a bum at the end of the story, well, great. I don't know, maybe they can make a story out of that. But anyway, it's the transition from where you were to where you are now. And
well,
yeah.
what I'm kind of hoping for the rags to riches story. I mean, and that's kind of the core of the book, I feel. But we'll see how it all comes out because it all hasn't been written yet, and
Right.
it's not all going to be written because you asked that question when we had her on a few weeks ago. What about the rest of his life?
Right.
Because
The rest of
obviously
the
it's
story.
it's not going to end. And she goes, well, it's a memoir and it goes to a certain time
Right.
and then it ends. But
Right.
I think what really sells me on my own story, and I know it's stupid,
No, that's fine.
but and I can't even imagine that as a parent. I can't imagine if Gentry or Mandy was like a small child and a doctor sat down with me and said, well, your son or your daughter is probably going to live to his their mid-teens, and that's all we can do.
Right.
And I think the rags to riches story was my parents because, of course, I was small. Well, son, we talked to the doctor
Right.
and they said you're not going to make it past 14, 15 years old. I'm
Right.
sorry. That's just the way it is. You're not going
Right.
to tell
Right.
that to a kid.
Right.
And you're not going to tell it to my older brother even because they kept it from him. He really didn't realize all of this until, later in life we're told, both of us, have been told many a times now that, well, we were told when you were a baby, you'd probably never live to see your, mid-teens.
Right.
And so here I am in about 3 weeks, going to turn the big 7-0 of, and my brother lived to 70. My
Right.
mother, and I thought it was 69, but my mother only lived to 60. So it was 2 months before she was 69. She
Okay.
was only 68.
Okay.
And of course, my dad went to 77 or 78, I believe.
Right.
But, you know, there's the story, I think. But there's a lot in between, which we're going to get into.
Of course.
But that's the rags to riches, I feel. This poor little kid, the parents were told he wasn't going to live past his teens. And holy crap, the kid's almost 70 now. Like, die already.
I mean yes, that of course, but the story is your story, not your parents' story. But yes, I hope and I'm sure that the book will have a lot. Now, of course, unfortunately, we don't get to talk to your parents, or your brother, but yeah, that's a big part of it. And like you said, that would be how do you tell a parent that? How do you well, boy, don't get into that. I mean, I remember when, well, we're talking your story, not mine. So it doesn't matter. But yes, that would be damn near impossible to have a discussion like that with a parent who has a new child, a young child. And it's like, sorry, this is where it is what it is. The
Yeah.
best and the worst thing you
now
can
there's
say.
many times in my mind,
Right?
my own mind, I sit there and try to think of, and I know I shouldn't, but I try to think about that. Because it gives me, sad feelings for my parents.
Right.
It's like, because I only imagine, that song, the religious song, I can only imagine, when he goes to heaven.
Right.
Well, I can only imagine what it's like for my parents to hear those words. I mean, it's just like that would be, speaking of the Alzheimer podcast on the Podcast Playground Network with Jeff Edwards, gut punched.
Got
That had
punched.
to be one hell of a gut punch for them.
Yes.
So
I
that's,
mean, I'm sorry we didn't think to, well, of course you never do, right? You didn't think 40 years ago to talk to your parents and get their story. That's, yeah.
yeah.
I we don't, you don't know, Joni Mitchell, you don't know what you got till it's gone. Which is so true. I wish I had talked to my father more about his history, although he was very reluctant to talk about his history, and I don't know why. But he was, he served in World War II, and he was that age and all of that. And I would have loved to hear some of those stories, even though it wasn't a very, he didn't have a glorious history going to war. He never went overseas. He was stationed in Biloxi, Mississippi for his time. But still, I would have liked to hear more of those stories, and I never did. And so I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is, because if somebody doesn't want to tell you if somebody doesn't want to share their story, they're not going to share their story.
Well,
So
that's kind of like my brother too. Although you said your father was never actually in the. I mean, he was serving during the war, but he
yeah,
wasn't
but
in
he
the
never
war.
went overseas. Yeah.
Now, my brother went to Vietnam,
Uh-huh.
and he was there for a year, and he would never really get into. He didn't want to. He never wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, maybe there's, and
And
neither you nor I has done any military service, so maybe there's something there that we don't know about. I'm
well,
open to that, that there's
well, he
something that you'd rather forget it.
well he did tell me a few things,
Right.
and the things that he told me, and he didn't really go into detail either. But I mean, I can only
I can
imagine.
only imagine. No, I get
But
it.
people being shot, kids being blown up,
Yes.
and you're witnessing these things.
Yes.
And so yeah,
Not
I can
easy.
see why they don't want to talk about it. But thinking of it is what it is. That was my brother's. Because he was in Vietnam. He was fine up until probably like maybe when he started getting older. But Agent Orange started creeping in, and that really started messing with him. And he did a lot of hospital visits too.
Yes.
And his big word was, "It is what it is."
It is what it is.
And then, of course, we talked about this phrase one other time, and Jay, our good buddy Jay at the Podcast Playground Network, said it's a military thing, and my brother was in the military, but he'd always say too, "Just another day in paradise."
Just
When he was sick.
we take that for granted. We use that, and by me I mean people who were not in the military or did not go through some super challenging thing. We use that as a joke. People will ask me that nowadays. How you doing? Just another day in paradise. But you're right. That's for people who have had military service. Yes, that means a little bit more, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A lot more. So yeah, I get it. And again, that's a brotherhood. Yes, I understand there are men and women. That's a brotherhood you people who are not in will never understand. I totally
That's
get it.
yeah.
I totally get it. So respect. Nothing but respect.
But yeah, whenever my brother was down and out and in the hospital and we talk about it, he'd say, "Well, it is what it is." When my
Mm-hmm.
dad got cancer, it
Mm-hmm.
is what it is,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going through things. So that's kind of like my key word. It is what it is. And I don't use another day in paradise much, but
I don't too
every
much
now and
either.
again, but it is what it is. I use that a lot.
And I always have an inward smile to myself knowing, yeah, it's like it is what it, yeah, that totally sucks. But yeah, I get it. I do. So yeah, it is what it is. And again, you can use that in either direction. That can be a positive thing or a negative thing, or it can be neither. It can just be a placeholder for, and again, come over and visit the Practical Path podcast where, it's like where you're not here to fix anything for anybody. I can't make your life better. You can't make my life better. It's not how it works. I can help you with some things. You can help me with some things, but on the bottom line, it's up to us to decide what we think and feel about the life that we have. So you can say
Yep.
it is what it is.
Well, I've noticed you've said the Practical Path podcast a few
I
times.
have. Yes.
Uh, it's really kind of bland right now.
What is?
Well, what I'm just
Easy. All right. It's
hold
coming.
on to your britches there, young
I'm
man.
trying.
But there's a new, not a new podcast, but there is a new website that I'm working on.
Oh, tell me
It's
more.
called Gift of Life Podcast.com.
Very nice. And I'm so glad you could get that URL.
Yeah, I was surprised too. I go, let me see if I Gift of Life Podcast.com. Boom,
Cool.
I got it.
Cool.
So I grabbed it and I got it. And a lot of people know, especially, you are like a web designer. You could probably do something fancy with it.
Probably.
But I have like the little, GoDaddy, create your own, doesn't cost you anything. but if you don't have a brain, it's pretty damn simple. That's the kind of website I have. Yeah,
Okay.
but I know there's more tools in the trade that I can work on.
Mm-hmm.
But at least it just went up the other day, actually,
Awesome. I'll have to go look.
because my son. I told you, I was at the corporate offices for like
Yes.
4 days,
Corporate offices, Fort Myers, Florida.
and Saturday he had to do the Naples prom.
You texted me that your son, successful business owner, I almost said millionaire. I don't know. He might be worth $1 million. He probably is still doing parties.
Oh yeah,
Does he just love the adoration of the little girls? Is that it? Or
no,
what?
no, no. But I think kind of what we talked about with radio and that. I think he likes the entertainment business. That's entertaining.
I get
To
it.
get the right mixes to keep the. I
The
DJ'd for a
dance
long
going.
time.
So
Yeah,
anyway, I'm sorry. I kind of distracted us there. Your
but
son was the DJ at the Naples High School prom this past
yeah,
weekend.
yeah.
Awesome.
So if you got any bad reports, it wasn't him. He sent somebody else in his place. But if you get good reports, yeah,
It
that
was
was my
him.
son. And
Yeah.
in a couple weeks, he's doing the Estero prom. Now, guess where
Awesome.
the now I guess it's off campus too. The
The
Estero
party.
prom coming up, but Wolf Lodge in Naples, the new Wolf Lodge, is where they had the Naples prom. And he said, "Whoa, that's quite the
Whoa.
place."
Whoa. When you're Naples High School, yeah, you can do that. All it takes is money. And that's not really an issue in Naples, is it? I it blew my mind when I saw that they were doing a Wolf Lodge in Naples. Blew my mind. Because I always thought, oh, they're in really big cities. Like there's one in Dallas and there's one, there's a couple of them around. But Naples, wow, isn't that interesting?
Now they got because he always, he's like I was when I was DJing. He brings a setup guy to help him set up and
Sure,
everything, all the
sure,
lights because they do
sure.
all sorts of stuff. So they got there early.
Uh-huh.
Prom was all set up. So, they knew they had like, 45 minutes before the kids were going to start arriving. So they took a little stroll
Around
and
the
he said,
lodge.
that place is just the bomb, man. He said they got like, an indoor pool, like
Oh, yeah.
not an indoor pool, an indoor water park.
Yes.
They have like one of those things where there's ropes and bridges and everything that you can
Yes.
climb all over. They had
Yes.
laser. He said, "Oh my God, that place is like just lit."
I don't need any family entertainment, but I appreciate that stuff. I really do. I like, you know what I really like? And there's one literally they're almost across the street from each other in Dallas. I was at a convention in Dallas a few years ago, and they have one of those what's the hotel in Orlando has one too? The Gaylord. The
Oh yeah.
Gaylord Texan, which is exactly the same as the Gaylord at Disney World, except it's a Texas theme, where it's all in, the hotel is built and it's a giant dome over the top. And that to me, same thing, indoor pool but high end adult stuff, like the bar and the restaurants and a Texas steakhouse where I was part of a $2,500 meal tab, and it was fun. It was
Now, speaking of the Gaylord, they do this every Christmas, I know, and we've been a
yes,
few times where they take ice sculptures and everything
yes,
is ice, and they
yes,
take like I don't know what you'd call it, the convention room or whatever, one of the convention, and they deck it out for
yes.
Christmas, and it's all ice figures and
Usually from Frozen.
yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
know they have a different theme every year.
Oh, okay.
One year it was Buddy the Elf or whatever that was. So yeah, they have a different theme every year, but yeah, it's pretty cool. So we've been there a couple times. And I
Yeah,
was
I
wondering,
was
do
I
they
was
do that in
actually at the
Texas?
Gaylord in Orlando for at a Christmas time thing. I didn't do the whole display, but yeah, they had a lot of nice stuff set up. I remember that. But yeah, I love that stuff. I love that stuff. I don't know why. I just kind of enjoy it. But that's my adult playground thing, I guess.
And Gentry, my son kind of said, this is like really felt like real Disney, like even though it's not Disney, but he said the whole resort was, so Disney like.
If I may ask, and you don't have to answer this, but what does a young man get paid for doing the Naples High School prom at the Wolf Lodge in Naples?
I don't know if I should. Let's just say it's nice scratch.
It's good, yeah.
And
It's
of course, my son went to Estero High School.
right.
His kids went to Estero High School.
Oh, okay.
So
I
he's been
actually
doing,
I actually went to several Estero High School football games in my time back there because that was I no kids or anything like that, but I knew I had friends who had kids who went there. So yeah, I went to several Estero High School football games.
so he said he did make sure, since he no longer goes there, his children no longer go there, that because he was giving them a deal
Mm.
at Estero High School.
Mm-hmm.
But now that the kids are grown up, he bumped up his deal. He said, I'm sorry, if I'm going to come out and spend my evening,
Sure.
I need closer to what I normally get. So let's just say he made a little more this year at Estero, but still the Wolf Lodge prom was quite a bit more scratch.
I'm sure
I'm
those
going to say a
checks had
lot.
commas in them.
Oh yeah, both of them have
Oh
commas.
yeah. Oh yeah. Nice. Nice
You know,
work if you can get it.
even weddings nowadays, you're going to put a comma in it.
For
You
a
got to
DJ
do.
at a wedding? Well,
Yeah.
sure, I would assume so. I don't know why I wouldn't, but I mean nowadays, weddings are if again in Naples, right? We're talking Naples here. I remember I did I got my little certificate, my little online, reverend certificate. I was a priest for a day, not a priest. I was a reverend for a day. Actually, I still probably am. And I did the wedding. I was the officiant, if that's the word, I forget. I was the person who married my partner, Vicky Wagner, our friend Vicky Wagner and Rick Wagner. I married their son in Naples, in the backyard of the bride's father's house on the golf course at Quail West, I think it was. Just unbelievable. So yeah, that I get it. That even 30 years ago, that was probably multiple commas in that check. Not
Oh
for
yeah, the
me,
whole
but
wedding.
for the
Yeah.
wedding for sure. Yeah. So again, to spend a few grand on a disc jockey for a wedding, that's probably chump change. That's probably small potatoes.
Oh, and I remember in the late 80s, I probably got into DJing,
Mm-hmm.
maybe the mid to late 80s. And I remember starting out they go, what do you charge? Oh, it's $50 an hour.
Right.
And most weddings are 3 to 4 hours. So you
Right.
can do the math.
Right.
And you can do the math what it is today. Although I will admit, when I ended my career, and that's probably before the heart transplant of, really DJing, I was getting like $150 an hour.
Ooh.
I see my son is really wised up too. He used to do like the 150, $200 an
I'll bet
hour.
there's another zero on the end of that now.
Now what he does, he goes, well, I have several different packages.
Packages.
And so it all depends on how much lighting. Now that with a wedding too, the up lighting and dance floor lighting, and a lot of times they want you to do like they're maybe going to get married, in the out in, in the pasture, and then the barn's
Right.
going to be where the
Right.
reception is. So they want you to be able to take your speakers out, and have wire. So yeah, it's a lot more intense now doing weddings than when I did weddings. But yeah, it's packages now. It's not
Of course
hourly.
it is. Of course it is.
You can get the not cheap package, or you get the really expensive package.
Our packages range from not cheap to really not cheap. Well, good for him. I'm glad. So he had a good time and money was made and all good. All good. I
Yeah.
love that. So definitely past my day for doing weddings and parties and stuff like that. But if somebody needs somebody to marry them, I'm happy to step in and do the job for that.
Now,
So yeah.
my wife was not. I don't think she is anymore, but she was a notary public,
Right.
a
Right. When she
notarizer, or
worked for
whatever, or you
Ooh,
notarize
yeah,
things.
Notary Public. Yes.
And you can actually marry people when you are that.
It has to be, yes, because all you're basically doing is testifying to the fact that, yes, a husband and wife, man and woman were, well, nowadays I can't say man and woman, can I? The two people were in front of me and they signed the document that says we are now married, and I attest to that and make it official. So here you go. Congratulations. So
Yeah.
yes.
So
Yeah.
the either first or second marriage she didn't work out. So finally, when she got one that worked out, she was so much happier. In fact, I remember after she had the one that didn't work out, and she said, "Are you sure? My first one didn't work out very well."
Well, I'm pretty sure it's not I'm pretty sure it's not Susan's fault that the wedding didn't last, but
Yeah,
I
but
get it. Yeah, I hear
she
you.
still felt guilty. She goes, "Oh, it's all my fault."
How can you feel guilty about that? Come on, let it go. It is what it is, Susan. It is
Yeah.
what it is.
Let it go. Let it
Let it
go.
go. More boy, we're doing Frozen. We're doing Let It. We're doing It Is What It Is. All the callbacks on the show today. We're just killing it here. That's great.
Well,
So,
I hope you now we're going to meet again next Monday to
yes,
record another podcast, and then you go see your doctor.
I
And
have,
hopefully,
I have, as we, of course, as always, we record these on a Monday, and we are doing that today. And so, yes, so the timeline was the surgery was last Thursday as we record this. Got through the weekend, no problem. Went for a quick follow up on Friday, literally the day after the surgery, because I had this monster pirate patch. I sent you that picture. They took the
arr,
patch off, got me the prescription for the drops, so it's 4 times a day, one drop of two different things. So now I'm just killing time. Now I'm just in recovery mode. And so again, as we record this, it's a Monday, so 1 week from today I have my next follow-up with the doctor that actually did the surgery, Dr. H. He has some long and unpronounceable Indian name, and everybody calls him Dr. H, even his staff. So I'm seeing Dr. H, and Dr. H is more importantly seeing me 1 week from Monday. So there we
this is a
go.
little
Yes.
this is a little scary on the Gift of Life podcast.
Yes.
I had a girl on. Well, actually, she's on. Well, we come out on Tuesday, so by the time this rolls out, we'll have a new one come out. But
Yes.
last week's guest was had a heart transplant in Jacksonville, and their doctor was Dr. H that did the surgery.
Well,
Hope
my
it's not
guy
the
is
same
definitely an
doctor.
eyeball specialist, so I'm sure it wasn't him. Dr. H. Yeah. Dr. Halahazaris. I don't know. I don't even have it written down. I just have Dr. H.
Well,
And
good luck
so,
to you.
what's that?
I said good luck to you.
Thank you. Of course, you and I will chat throughout the course of the week here, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'll be fine. I'll be fine.
We've had a couple guests on here lately, and that was really neat having Stan on. I'd like to have him on again.
It was terrific. He and I talked about that on the show. It's like he and I never really met in person. We might have crossed paths somewhere somehow, but we never really. He and I were never close, obviously, in working days. But it was so good to talk to him. And the thing that impressed me the most is, when we were on the air at the same time as Stan and Haney, of course, it was like playing Battleship. It was like, all right, they're doing this, we're going to do this. We're doing this, they're going to do that. We're talking mean about them, they're talking mean about us, whatever. But then you get the guy on live and in person, and it's like nothing but great stories, nothing but great vibes. And so yeah, it was really fun. It's like two great football teams, or any team, sports teams. It's like, all right, during this hour that we're playing, we are here to crush you, and when it's over, we're all kneeling on the field together.
Yeah,
To me, that's what it was.
I wish, of course, he has passed, but I was also not only was I good friends with Stan and Haney,
Mhm.
but Stan's first partner, Joe Scott. I was very close to him too.
Right.
He was one of those guys that would just eat you up on the air.
Yeah,
And
and I'm pretty sure I met Joe Scott at somewhere along the line. But
Yeah.
yes,
you would
going.
take the
He
shirt
was
off
the
his
same.
back. You take the shirt off his back if
Yep.
you were off the air, but if you were on
Yep.
the air, oh, he would
Yep.
eat you for breakfast and spit you out.
I love that. I love, because to me, that's the sports analogy, right? Like I said, we're going to play hard for an hour, but when it's over, we're going to go and have a drink together. Yeah.
Like I said,
I love
and
that.
I know we're running short on time, but I still think the funniest story
Go for it.
that I can ever think of is when my son first got his job at Beasley Broadcasting, and Joe just one day, and this is when we were together, and
Yep.
you know, about the time, you know, it's like everybody knew I was sick, everybody knew, you know, life was having problems with my heart, and he got on the air and he said, "Well, if anybody's looking for a job, you can go over there soon and probably get BJ Odom's job. He'll be long gone for this world." And I mean, I know Joe Scott. I heard him doing this bit and talking about that for about a month, and I would laugh my ass off every time I heard it. My son goes to work at Beasley Broadcasting. He's working on ESPN, but he has to, go across the office of Joe and Stan.
Sure.
He walks into Joe and he says, "If I ever hear you talk about my dad like that, I'm going to come in here and kick your butt everywhere but loose." Nobody talks about, and I mean nobody talks about my dad like that. And he stormed out. And Gentry called me that night. He goes, "I gave Joe a piece of my mind. I told him what I thought of him. And I told him, if he ever," I said, no. I said, "Son," I says, "Joe is one of the greatest guys I've ever met. Does he have demons? Yes, he does. But," I says, "if I needed a shirt, he'd
Right.
give me the shirt off his back,
Right.
if I needed it."
Right.
And I said, "So the next day you go in, apologize, tell him you talked to your dad, and the world is good." And he ended up actually down the line being his producer.
Right. Yeah.
Joe
I
was on
remember
his
that.
own.
I remember that. Yeah. That was
he
awesome.
worked as Joe's producer. So I still think, though, he was ready to, oh, man.
Oh, sure.
He was that tough kid that was defending his dad. Nobody talked shit about his dad.
You raised him right, Dad. You raised him right. There you go. I love that. I love that. Well, good. That's a good quitting point there. So there we go. Another hour. See, you and I were wondering, are we going to get through an hour? We always do. It's not a problem. Never a problem. All right. That's going to do it for this week. As always, 5-star reviews wherever you get your podcasts. I'm not going to say do your podding. That's stupid. Wherever you get your podcasts, leave us the 5-star review. Come join us on Facebook. Just do a search for BJ and Bill, the podcast, and we will see you there. But until that time, have a great week. It's just up to BJ Odom to say,
see ya!
Flip the dial, take a ride back in time when the airways were golden and the DJs shine. 2 mics, 2 guys, and a whole lot of laughs. Living like legends, bringing stories back. No script, no rules, just tell